Hello and welcome to Gruff Talk, where each week we take a deep dive into all the ways we can feel better, look better, live better, and age better. I'm your host, Barbara Hannah Grufferman. So I'm really excited because today I'm joined by Jean Duffy, who wrote a really great book. And for those of you who are watching, I'm holding it up. For those of you who are not, you can check it out on Amazon and other places. There will be links, but Inspire the World. It's a great, great story, very inspiring. It's a special story, and Jean is going to tell us all about it. And it's really interesting because it seems to be there seems to be an uptick in the interest of soccer. Certainly, right now, women's soccer is on the world stage because of the World Cup, but and also it's very exciting because now as we record this, we're heading into the finals, which will be on Sunday, and it'll be between England and Spain. So it'll be very exciting. And we will ask Jean what her prediction is. Yep, we will. Jean, get ready for that. You're going to have to, we're putting you on the spot, and then we'll check back, right? But also, Ted Lasso was such and continues to really be a phenomenon. And that really, I think, spurred some interest in soccer and believe, right? So anyway, welcome to Gruff Talk, Jean. Really happy to have you.
Oh, hi, Barbara. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's a very, very special story. I loved reading the book. I'm going to hold it up again. Soccer Grannies. I mean, anytime there's a story out there about women who are older, like me, who are doing active things and achieving things and saying, you know what, I'm not too old, I can do this, is very appealing to me and to my audience. So give us the backstory about why did you write this book? How did this happen? Tell us.
Okay. Well, I was in my mid-40s when I discovered soccer. I was standing on the sidelines watching my daughters play in Lexington, Massachusetts, and I said, that looks like fun. I can run 5 miles. Surely I could run and kick a soccer ball. And I was lucky to find a group of women just starting up. And I was hooked in no time. I found it was a really fun way to exercise, a great stress reliever because you totally forgot about that to-do list for the hour you were playing. And I built a great community of friends. They're some of my best buddies. I didn't know, but just a few years later, a team of women in South Africa started playing. And when 2010, when South Africa hosted the World Cup, the first time on African soil, this team of women found themselves in the international spotlight because they were the perfect human interest story associated with the World Cup. And so reporters were flocking to Limpopo to take photos and interview these women running around in skirts playing soccer. It would turn out we met and played soccer together on both sides of the Atlantic. And it was such an amazing experience. One of my friends said, someone has to write a book.
But wait a minute. First, tell us something. What made them so special? I know they were running around with skirts. And of course, I know why they were so special because I read your book. But, but why were they so special? Tell us about that.
They were 40 to 80 years old,
okay,
which in itself is quite amazing. And these women have led very challenging lives, many struggles, and yet they're strong and resilient and they continue forward. And more than that, they exude this joy for life despite all this, all the hardship. And whether they're singing, dancing, or chasing the soccer ball, that just comes out. And it's just a lovely story.
So that great line from Ted Lasso, soccer is life.
Yes.
They really were believing that.
Yes,
soccer is life. Okay, yeah. Who is Mama Becca? She really has a big role in your story. Who is she, and what is her role in this whole story about these wonderful women?
Yeah, so she is absolutely the heroine of the story. She's a community activist who has won many awards. She's actually known as the Mother Teresa of Limpopo. She has funded education for young adults, helping them, find jobs. She builds houses for those without. And the AIDS epidemic hit South Africa very hard.
Yeah.
Women in this age group of the Soccer Grannies lost adult children and found themselves now having to care for grandchildren, maybe 8 or 10 or 12.
Yeah. Yep.
And,
I read that again in your book. Incredible stories. They really are the backbone of their communities and families.
Absolutely. Yep. And Becca had a national radio television show where people would call in and talk to her, and she would help connect them with resources that they needed, whether it was a wheelchair or maybe funds to have a proper funeral for a relative who had passed away. And at 53, or 35, sorry, I got my digits backwards, Becca was diagnosed with colon cancer and found herself in the hospital undergoing.
Wait, let's 35 years old?
35 years old. And Becca, being Becca, not looking inward and focusing on her own suffering, she looked outward and saw all these older women in the hospital suffering from heart disease and diabetes and mobility problems of all sorts. And she asked the doctor, why are all these women here? And he said they lead stressful lives, and we know what that does to our bodies. But he said they need exercise, just like you're going to need, Becca, to come back from these treatments. And so she founded an exercise program and recruited all these women when she got out of the hospital. And one day there's some boys kicking a soccer ball around, and it rolls in front of these grannies exercising, and one of them rears back and boots it into the air, and it doesn't go back to the boys like she'd intended, and the grannies are all laughing. And Becca runs over and said, "You got to show these grannies how to kick the ball." And so they spent the next half hour running and chasing and passing and kicking. And they said, that was fun. We want to do it again. And that was the birth of her first team.
Yep.
And for all the same reasons that I love soccer, they did too.
And why did it take so long for you to write this book? I mean, look, I know you lead a busy life, a career, family, and so on. So I get it. Having written books myself, I know how hard it is to get started and writing that first word. Why did it take so long to get this book out?
So I spent 8 years. I was an engineer and manager of engineers. And in my mid-50s, it was until then that I put aside my full-time career and took a first creative writing class. And before that, I'd only written emails and, the occasional technical report.
Right.
So, and I was doing it part-time too. So it took 4 years to get to a first draft, and then another 4 to be actually holding the book in my hand, which is pretty exciting.
Oh, gosh. So there's nothing like your first book. I mean, really, I guess first of almost anything is the best.
Right.
But really your first book, and it's an amazing story. What were some of the most surprising moments of this whole story that as you were living it, you lived it and then you wrote about it. What were some of the kind of most surprising, best moments you want to share?
Well, certainly the horrific racist policies of apartheid, where all the racism was codified into laws that drove poverty and unemployment among the Black people that persist today. And that was hard to learn more about as I was researching the book. I also learned about their Sangha culture. These women are mostly from the Sangha ethnic group. And it was fun to learn about their herding and farming lifestyles and their traditions of courtship. But there was one thing that was very hard to hear. And in communicating with Becca over the years, there were instances where this occurred. Many of the people have strong beliefs in witchcraft, and that can actually threaten the lives of some of these older women. Let's say there's a village with an unexplicable life event or illness in someone's life, and some will believe that a witch has caused this, and so they will look around to figure out who is the witch who caused this, and they may well blame an older woman with mental health issues because that they also can't quite understand. And a mob.
Yeah, I read about that in your book, and I found that to be one of the most jarring and upsetting parts of the book that I read. But that happens all around the world. Some variation of that story, but that was hard. I mean, these women really have had to suffer through so much, just as you said, with the AIDS epidemic and how they've had to take on caregiving responsibilities, very often kind of having children literally on their backs as
Yes,
they were
yes.
going into the field. I mean, I read all about that, and it's hard. And the fact that they found these moments of joy and outlet is wonderful. And it
Right.
sounds as though Becca really was, Mama Becca, really was very responsible. So, how many actual soccer granny teams are there now? Do you know that, or I mean, is it
There are
spreading? How does that
now
work?
there are now more than 200 teams across Africa, mostly in South Africa, that she has inspired. And so that, if you think about 20, 30 women on a team, that's a lot of women who now feel an extra boost of confidence and comfort from their local community and empowered. So I think that's just enormous, yeah, what she's accomplished.
Have their lives changed since they've become soccer grannies?
Yeah, I think certainly the aerobics and the exercise has been really shown marked improvements in their health. Becca's assigned a team doctor to actually measure that so she can see the improvements. And like we've talked about, their lives are very stressful. So their to-do list that is way more
And
um,
it's different.
heavy than my to-do
Yeah,
list.
yeah. So their mental health has also improved, but has it changed the way, really most importantly, I think, given the context here, has their society changed how it views them? Like, are they being viewed as unstable old witches less as a result? I mean, has there been some more positive societal changes that you're aware of since the beginning of Soccer Grannies?
Yeah, so I think it's a very good example of that. This year in 2023, one of Becca's dreams came true. She voiced it in 2010 when she was here, and she said, "Before I die, I want to host a Grannies World Cup, and I
Great
want to bring
idea.
all the teams together, and your team, Jean, has to come." And this year in March, um, 16 teams from across Africa, the US, and Europe played in the first ever Grannies International Football Tournament. And from Boston alone, we brought 3 teams of women in our 50s, 60s, and 70s to participate. And we really didn't know what to expect, but from the get-go, it was just amazing. You know, a parade through a town, marching behind the flags of our country. And it was lined with people giving us high fives and wanting to take our picture. And we walk into the stadium and it was packed, you know, thousands of people there to cheer them on. So I feel like
Incredible.
Becca and these women have gone from being told, you know, you belong at home caring for the grandchildren, to now being the heroes, bringing this international event to their community. So I think that goes a long way to showing how far they have come. And the grannies that we knew from 2010 were in the stands now cheering, and this new squad, young squad of 50 and 60-year-olds were on the field. So I think that shows that they've opened the door for the next generation of women.
Oh,
So
that's really exciting. So is a second World Soccer Grannies World Cup being planned?
it is for 2025. Becca said we can't wait 4 years because we're too old. So we'll do it again in 2 years.
Exactly right. Yeah, I think 2 years is a good idea. Oh, that's wonderful. And how many, maybe you said it, but I didn't catch it. How many teams from the US
There were
participated?
3.
How many?
Boston 3 from the U.S. So our
Three
Boston,
from the US. Okay. Because there must be other soccer teams that have, midlife women playing around the country. Maybe they just didn't know about it or couldn't maybe they didn't have the funds to join in. But hopefully by 2025, there'll be more teams participating, right? From the
yes,
US also.
from the U.S. for sure. But I really wanted to keep African teams coming as well.
Oh
Um,
yeah, of course.
Lots of African teams sharing over social media excited videos in advance of how they were practicing and preparing, and we're going to win the trophy cup. And And then in the end, some of them couldn't afford to make the trip, which was just kind of heartbreaking, I know, for Becca. So we're hoping with 2 years in advance notice, they can start, saving some money and building sponsors and by their government or commercial entities that
Right,
will
right.
bring them. And we've established a GoFundMe here in the United States, score one for the Soccer Grannies, that we're hoping, to support all of Becca's initiatives to help older women's health in South Africa.
Yeah, it's a wonderful initiative. It also, I think, shows everybody what one can do, no matter what one's age is. And I think it's probably very inspiring to the younger generation. I mean, whenever we think of soccer, we normally think of kids, right? Or young people playing soccer. Or young adults, obviously, if they're professionals. But this is unusual. And so it does show once again that, the body can do what the mind really wants it to do sometimes, with limitations, of course. So you personally, you find that you're playing soccer still.
Yes. I'm no intention of stopping. I really can't.
So what lessons do you think the younger generation can really learn from these very resilient soccer grannies?
I think Soccer Grannies is a great book for the young adult crowd. It's always important to gain exposure to another part of the world and learn about their lives. And, I think this is, with the life stories I've been able to incorporate, it really opens the reader's heart and mind to the lives of these women and teaches us how powerful sport can be to, improve your health and get away from the phone or sitting at the computer, as us writers do so much of, and just make another circle of friends locally and globally as possible, right?
And it also shows, I think, that it's never too late. If you decide you want to start doing something you've never done before, let's look at you. You started playing soccer in midlife and you wrote your first book in midlife. Right. I mean, those are two incredible feats. And so I want to give you a little round of applause for both. And who knows what else you're going to be doing down the road. See, that's the exciting thing. I mean, for me, with midlife, that's when I wrote my first book. After 50, I started running after 50, running marathons, right?
There you go.
I learned how to knit after 50. I mean, like I had all these things that I always wanted to do, but I just never had time, or it wasn't the right time. See, someone asked me, and I actually want your opinion on this because it's really very relevant to this conversation. Someone asked me, in fact, I get asked rather frequently about, do you view yourself as a late bloomer? And my view of that is that I hate that term, because what does that really mean, late bloomer? That means I was late to the party. Like I should have done it before, but I didn't, or I couldn't. And so I'm doing it now. So I'm a late bloomer. No. I wasn't ready to run before. I wasn't ready to write that first book before I did. I didn't have anything to say. There wasn't anything I really wanted to share with the world then. But when I was ready. And so late bloomer is a term I just don't like, and I don't like it applied to me at all. What's your view on that?
Well, I have to admit, you've opened my eyes. I wrote an essay that was published recently about being a late bloomer, but now I would rephrase that you bloom all through your life.
That's right.
It's just different things blossom out at different times.
Yeah, when you're ready. I'm a big believer in that. And that's why this concept of it's never too late is really so critical to our thinking, because if you think it is too late, then you won't do it. Right. You won't even try to do it because you'll think, oh, no, I can't run, or, oh, gosh, no, I can't play soccer. I'm too old. Yeah. And that will stop you in your tracks. And when I think about the people out there who they stop themselves, I don't even think other people are stopping them necessarily. I think they're stopping themselves from doing things out of fear, perhaps, that they can't, or fear that they might hurt themselves, whatever their reason is, but they stop themselves. And I part of what my mission is with this podcast and with what I write and what I do is to have people kind of think of themselves as soccer grannies, like just you can do it. It's never too late.
Right.
It's never too late. You know, if you're, but I also like to kind of, the caveat there is if it's something physical like running or soccer, and if you've never done it, or if you've been a bit of a couch potato, perhaps you want to get the green light from your doctor too while you're at it.
Right. A slow start and the right group, you know, to be with who are at your level and your pace. But
Yeah. So is there one story that really stands out in your mind? I know, of course, the story of Mama Becca is a big story in the Soccer Granny story. And it continues, of course. I mean, I'm sure your book has caused a spotlight to be put onto the Soccer Grannies in Africa and other places, and its potential to grow. Right? It's like a model for future growth. And there is a documentary. I don't know if you can tell us about that as well.
yes, it was done in 2017. It's called Alive and Kicking, the South African Soccer Grannies, or Soccer Grannies of South Africa, I think. Yeah, it won lots of awards. It's just a beautiful portrayal of Becca and the team. It was done by a South African filmmaker, and that's a lot. If you can't go to meet them, it's a wonderful way to get in.
Yeah,
get
I'll
the
make sure I put the link to that as well, and of course to your book, needless to say. So this really incredible story, Jean, and we thank you for taking the time out of your own life to research and kind of go back and talk to the people that you had met, and talk to new people to kind of fill out your story and to bring us this story, because it is so inspiring. And you're right. You said earlier about what can this teach the younger generation? I mean, yeah, opening their eyes to the different experiences that people have in the world, the life experience of the soccer grannies is so completely different than our own. And yet we have so many similarities, right?
Yes.
We want to still be relevant. We still want to participate. We still want to achieve. I mean, that's I think a global human experience that we share with them. But, you know, a lot of the other experiences quite eye-opening. But so tell us what are, like, give us your top three, if you have them, of what you really want the Gruff Talk audience to remember from our conversation today.
Well, I think you mentioned several times that it's never too late. That's absolutely the bottom line of this whole story.
And soccer is life.
Yeah. Soccer is life. And I hope some of your listeners are inspired to learn more and check out the book and read it and share it with their friends if they are similarly inspired. And I'm donating all the book proceeds to the Becca Nitzan Risi Foundation. So it's a good book for a good cause.
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that, Jean. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I'll make sure I add that into the show notes as well.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And so, okay, now I have to ask you, as I said earlier, we are recording this on the day that England won. And so they will be playing in the final against Spain on Sunday. Now, this episode will air after that. So the winner will be clear to us when this episode airs. But for now, we're going to ask you, Jean, who's going to win?
Well, of course, I don't really know, but
well, who do you want to win? Who would you like? Who are you rooting for?
Spain, for no good reason, but I'm cheering for them.
Okay, there you go. You heard it here first, everyone. We'll circle back and we'll see if Spain. Okay, thank you so much, Jean. I really appreciate it. Best of luck with this book.